We have Richard in Los Angeles who has a definition for a non-religious God that's different from deism. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good, thank you. I love your show.
Thanks.
I guess it would be a non-supernatural God is what I mean, in that what I call God would be, if someone asked me, hey, what are you? I could get very philosophical and deep with that, but generally I would just say that it's my physical body, everything that I know, and everything that I've experienced through my senses. Would that be a good definition for you? If somebody says, hey, what are you?
I don't know that there's a bunch of little tricks and traps in there. I don't know that I would necessarily include. I don't know. Wow. It's hard to define, because let's say we pulled your mind out and put it onto a hard drive in a computer. If you want to make the case that you're still you, then clearly your body isn't part of it. And so what I would say we generally identify as identity, like the thing that makes me, is an ever-changing package. It's redefined as things change, of my perceptions, experiences, beliefs, desires, and while I'm in this body, my body.
Yeah,
right,
I would agree with that. It's a combination of thoughts and feelings and ideas and our mind and body working together that makes me, the individual that I am.
So anyway,
I'm Iron Man, evidently.
You can also, though, say, well, I'm also a product of my parents and grandparents, and I'm a part of the human race, and I share memories and DNA. And so is there such a thing as the whole entirety of human experience as a thing that you could say, well, all of
those things
human,
aren't me.
Knowledge.
So you've made a logical leap here that isn't justified. You went from saying, here's what I am, and then when you say, and I'm a part of humanity, but that's not who you are. Yeah. If all the rest of humanity goes away, you're still you. So there's not a direct tie between what I am and things I'm a part of. Just like a bristle on a brush isn't, while it's a part of the brush isn't the bristle's identity.
I gotcha. Yeah, for sure.
So how do we get to a God?
So I was thinking that the entire totality of knowledge and sensory experience in the entire cosmos, every insect, tree, whatever else other life is out there, that is something that I would slap the word God onto and be happy with that.
Why? So what can it do? How does it have character? So I'm not going to go with a prescriptivist definition of God, because yes, you can call whatever you want God. But if you come up and, this is kind of something I did ages ago where I'd say, like I could say this can of soda is God according to me, but it no longer matches up with what everybody else around me is talking about when they say God. Because if somebody says, hey, Matt, do you believe in God? And I say, yes, it's this Coke can. They're recognizing that I'm using a non-standard, non-normative definition. So what good does it do us to even try to come up with, here's something that I'd like to call God? What is it about the God label that makes you want to apply it to something in a non-standard way? It's like saying, I think the universe is God. No, there's something you're afraid of. You're afraid of a world where there's not necessarily you, but people that do this. Mm-hmm. You're afraid of a world where there's not something labeled God for you to point to. And so you're going to try to find something that fits into this label. And quite often people do that because they're afraid of saying, I don't believe in God, because that results in being ostracized. That results in being in the minority. But the thing is, if you want to say, oh, I refer to all of life as God, or all of the universe as God.
Mm-hmm. Trees.
So what? It's actually broken, because you've distanced yourself from and I'm not saying you specifically, but when you do that, you're distancing yourself from the secular, the non-believing community, which you are ostensibly a part of. And you're also distancing yourself from the people that you're trying to stay attached to, because, you know, oh, I don't want to say I don't believe in God, so God is this microphone. That doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, the problem I have with that, Richard, is that that argument starts from the position that there must be a God. It starts from the default position that God exists, and then it starts out trying to define what or who this God is. Why start from that position to begin with? We don't have to start with the assumption that there must be a God, and that's what Matt's saying. That I don't agree with that idea whatsoever.
Sure, I guess it's because there's limits to my knowledge, and like when I say, well, this is what I am, the totality of my knowledge, but that all of my knowledge does not include how I breathe, how my body functions. I have no idea how that happens. But
why did the end of your knowledge then lead to God? That isn't.
I'm kind of getting there.
Okay,
maybe
sorry.
It's because I have a limited knowledge base, then I have to stop and humbly ask for help. And then when I do that, and I use the word God, but you know, when I do that, it always seems like I get a better viewpoint on things. I get some sort of help, and maybe that's just my own imagination that's doing it, and maybe it's a kind of acceptance. So I'm not saying that there is a character out there who's this one being that cares for all of us. Maybe it's just something that's beyond my rational knowledge base.
So let me jump
in. Help me out, and I don't know what it is. Yeah,
Rich, let me ask you this: do you believe in fairies?
No.
Okay. Why would anybody who doesn't believe in fairies try to say, I have a different definition of fairies that's not supernatural, and it is this? Why would somebody do that? And if the God that you've redefined, you think it helps you get answers and stuff, how does that happen? How does saying I accept a God that isn't supernatural but is the sum total of human knowledge and experience, how does that help you get answers? It seems to me that your brain is doing a dance with discomfort, and you're just making things up to ease the discomfort of saying, wow, there's a lot of things I don't know. And as far as I can tell, maybe nobody knows some of them, but some people know some of them. I'd really like some answers. I'd like some help. I'd like to not feel alone. So I'm going to invent a non-supernatural, completely contrived, abstract definition of something that I don't even know or think is an entity, but it's going to help me come to decisions.
See, I would rather live from the position of saying, you know what, I don't know certain things, and I come to the end of my knowledge or my understanding on certain areas, and I'm really okay with not knowing it, and I'm okay with sitting with that for a while until I do learn something about that, or maybe I never do learn something about a particular thing, but I'm okay with it being just me. I don't need a third party out there that I can run to for answers or for comfort, because I would rather live with my own, with myself. And when I do come to answers, then it's me figuring things out, or me asking the right questions of the right people, or me just meditating on something long enough to come to some clarity on it. But I just don't need a deity out there to give credit to when it's really me. Or to cast blame on when it's really me. I don't need something out there beyond me. And it'd be easy in my position. I don't know if you know, I have a terminal disease, and I've been given 3 to 5 years to live. I didn't come back to God and say, okay, God, now I'm really sorry about that atheism thing. Just kidding, haha. I don't need a God out there beyond me to comfort me. I'm okay with this just being me and the community of people that I do life with. That's enough. And that's what I would hope that you can get to, is just finding that your life and who you are as a person that's ever growing and ever learning and ever changing, and the community of people that you do life with, I would hope you can get to a place where that's enough, and that you can just cast off the notion of there being a God out there of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically just throwing ideas out there of thoughts that I have and observations. Like I said, I don't believe in a kind of entity out there. I'm just thinking, well, why do I even use the word God, I guess, when, because it might just be my own imagination.
That's a good question to be asking yourself.
Well, thank you, guys.
Good to hear from you, Richard.
Absolutely, thanks. On that note, I'd like to point out that I think we kind of came full circle here, because, we started off with discussion of, are we opposed to relying on authority? No, we're not. And that means that when I don't know something, I'd like to be able to go to somebody who I think has a good understanding of it, and perhaps several somebodies, and compare it. But in what he was talking about, it's I'm going to say that this is God, and just me thinking that this is God, even though it's not necessarily an agent and doesn't have any power, any capabilities. He's kind of created sort of like a spiritual MacGuffin, the thing that is going to drive his narrative when he can't or won't drive it in some other fashion. So I love the fact that, you were giving advice about working on getting comfortable with you acknowledging your limits, depending on yourself and the people who you know and people who care for you and people who have some expertise. Why on earth would we ever say, I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I think there's this creature out there that's not actually a creature, that somehow communicates with people in a way that makes them think there's
well, that's the thing that's irritated me. As I deconverted from evangelicalism, I jumped right out of the pool. I didn't need to step down into nicer versions of God. And I've met a lot of progressive Christians who just kind of, they redefine God, and well, God is now this and God is now that. And they just seem to have a difficulty letting go of the concept of God at all. They just want him to be something different and something better. And I just keep saying, why do you need him there at all? I don't get it. I never have understood that.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think I have a hard time deciding which one's more irritating. The God is love version, because that's a dodge. It gets you out of all the responsibility of everything related to agency, and who's gonna stand in opposition to love. What kind of monster? Or the God is all of us.
And that's we're all God, and our energy, and the universe is God, and energy is God, and you're God, and I'm God, and this Coke is God, and
because if you think about it, what they're actually saying is, throughout history, all these people who thought they were conversing with an actual being were actually just discovering some abstract truth of the universe, that the universe is God, or we're all God, or the cosmic.
It doesn't mean anything. Then you're right. It completely loses meaning when you put it that way. It's why call it God? It makes no sense.
Yep. I already have a name for the universe. It's universe, or actually, cosmos.
They've already named it. You don't have to rename it.
And it's funny to me that we don't always ask those questions. Like I'm happy that I asked the question about, do you believe in fairies? Would you make up a definition for fairies? Because that's the way this thing needs to be thought of. If I'm not convinced of the Abrahamic God, or the God of Hinduism, or the gods of Hinduism, and all these other things, what kind of God should I be, or could I be attached to? And it skips over the first question of, is this a necessary term? Or
why do you need a God? Why do you need a God?
Empowering in face of the fear of being ostracized for not believing other people.
You hit that. I think that's a big core issue with people living. I mean, God is the default position. Thank God. God bless you. Those are terms that we throw around without even thinking about it. And it's the water we swim in. I think you hit it on. And there are people like Richard, I think his name was, who just are afraid of letting go of the idea that there's something there. And I don't want it to just be me. I'm not enough. I know my limitations, and I'm uncomfortable